Trump and EU set for huge battle over trade, and Germany's car industry at risk. European Union trade negotiators are on collision course with the United States after refusing to bow down to Donald Trump's demands, leaving Germany at risk from potential tariffs on EU car exports. U.S. officials are insistent any future trade deal with Brussels must feature agriculture, but EU negotiators have continued to rule out its inclusion. The conflicting goals will likely become a key sticking point when both negotiating teams strive to eliminate any transatlantic trade tensions. The EU's powerful executive will meet on Tuesday to draw up their red lines for a trade deal with the US. EU Trade Commissioner Cecilia Malmstrom said, "We have been very clear that from the EU side that we will not discuss agriculture." Brussels negotiators have been scrambling to reach a deal with Washington amid a trade threat to slap tariffs on European motor vehicle exports to the US. But the refusal to engage in allowing the US access to the EU's food market brings the prospect of the tariffs being implemented on European car exporters. After Ms. Malmstrom met with U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, Washington released a series of negotiating objectives for upcoming EU-US talks. Mr. Trump's administration has made securing comprehensive market access for U.S. agricultural goods in the EU by reducing or eliminating tariffs a top priority. The 14-page document also makes clear the U.S. will push for non-tariff barriers for U.S. agricultural products in Europe. Influential politicians in the U.S. have also made clear that they will require this type of specific access if they are to sign off any future deal. Chuck Grassley, the Iowa Republican senator, the chairman of the Senate Committee overseeing trade policy, said, "I don't know how anyone in Europe that wants a free trade agreement with us can expect it to get through the United States Senate if you don't want to negotiate agriculture." Despite the threat of looming tariffs, the EU Commission has refused to budge on its position by opening up its markets to U.S. agricultural products. A spokesman insisted that the joint statement issued by Mr. Trump and Mr. Juncker in July last year is very clear that agriculture is not part of the negotiations. They added, "As explained by Commissioner Malmstrom, we are not going to discuss agriculture, as we are also not discussing other issues such as public procurement or geographical indications." Trade talks are expected to start in little under a month, but both sides are yet to decide on a schedule for the negotiations. The White House is expected to make public the global automotive tariff options it is considering by next month, but has promised to protect the EU from any potential levies as long as trade talks continue. Last July, Mr. Trump told Mr. Juncker that he would not hit EU car exporters with a threatened 25% tariff, which the US is considering to impose on national security grounds. The position struck fear into German car producers, which prompted an emergency trip to Washington for Mr. Juncker. The European Commission president agreed to buy more U.S. soybeans in exchange for an effort to negotiate a deal on industrial goods, including motor vehicles. Any fresh talks between Brussels and Washington, however, will likely create a rift between the EU's strongest members, Germany and France. Berlin has pushed EU officials to bargain with Mr. Trump's administration to protect its car industry against potential duties on more than $31 billion in annual EU car exports. But France, which has an influential farm lobby, has said any trade talks must include agriculture. The bloc is looking to avoid a repeat of the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership negotiations, which broke down during Barack Obama's administration. TIP negotiations stalled as the EU and US battled over agriculture and access to public tenders. Ms. Malmstrom said, We propose something that could be quite easily done, which is industrial goods. She added that July's agreement leaves out things that we had difficulties overcoming already in TIP.